Good morning, everyone. And it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your introduction. And special thanks to the organizers for being fantastic hosts and for their invitation to give this keynote. I would also like to start by thanking 19 generations of students who participated in the Global Teamwork program, as well as researchers, students, partners from academia and industry who have contributed tremendously to the success of both our research, development, and education program. So without any further delay, let's dive in. I would like to see my slides on screen. Technology today has not been correct for us. Good. So, the nature of learning and workspaces is changing rapidly today and every day. And key drivers are listed here. More than that, in the last 2 decades, we have experienced a transformative journey that has taken us from Web 1.0, connecting us to content, to connecting us through Web 2.0 to content and people. And lately, connecting us within as virtual worlds, or what is known as 3D immersive worlds, allow us to co-create and be even more productive. So, as a roadmap for today's talk, I would like to propose a number of research, development, and education questions as we walk through the talk. First, what are the emerging opportunities and challenges in an AEC Global Teamwork 3.0 transformative learning and work environments? Second, how can mixing media and fusion of realities really broaden, deepen, as well expand our competencies, capabilities, and resources? Last but not least, we care about outcomes. So what will be emerging tangible outcomes in mixed media, mixed reality, collaborative environments? And I will close with 2 takeaways I have summarized over the years, 10 key characteristics for next generation collaborative environments, and 10 transformative effects of mixed media, mixed reality environments. So, first of all, the question that sits in front of us, how can we harness and foster creativity at all these levels, from the individual to the global marketplace? At Stanford, we have launched the PBL Lab, and for us, the people, their activities are in the center. And this is a picture of our strategy, where we start by observing their activities in their habitat, in learning and industry settings, and then link that to series of very diverse disciplines that help us understand what is the nature of global teamwork and project-based learning. And we develop collaboration technologies and services, as well as interactive spaces and places that we then deploy into practice, education and industry pilots that become our test beds to further observe how they transform behavior at the individual level, at teamwork practice level, at business process level, what works, what's confusing, and what is ignored, to feed back into our observation, into our next ready prototyping cycle. So for us, the clock ticks hopefully once a year, if not faster. To quote Professor Hennessy, Stanford's president, the world does not come to us as neat discipline problems, but as complex interdisciplinary challenges. And this is what we embrace, not only at that level, but also at the global level. And this is the typical scenario that we study both in corporate and education environments. The global team distributed in all the geolocations, some like Europe, greater region, work hours, daytime, what we call the comfort zone. And the rest of the region, the greater Asia region, the Americas, are in the pain zone, right? Dialing in at 2 a.m. or at 10 p.m. or at 6 a.m. And key questions that we are really focusing on as we do research and development is how do you work together? How do you provide feedback? How do you communicate? How do you make your local conditions visible? And what are those conditions in different countries, in different infrastructure and resource environments? How do you connect to mobile knowledge workers and learners? How do you support knowledge creation? In a nutshell, how do you capitalize on the core institutional competencies? Last but not least, this is a huge tsunami that actually is now in our academic world. This academic world year was the first year when the millennials have been freshmen in our universities. They are hyper-connected and they are absolutely fluent. This is their first language. However, under our rules, whether it's universities or industry, we have 4 generations that have different expectations, how to work, how to interact, where to work, and learn. So the Global Teamwork program that I launched as a dream come true at Stanford 20 years ago really has taken a key 5PL approach: problem, project, product, process, people-based learning. And typically we all do a very good job on the first 4 Ps, but none of us really focuses on the 5th P, the people. Lately, it was really a pleasure to be recognized nationally and internationally, receiving awards. But more importantly for us, why P5PL? First of all, is we believe that what has to be learned is best learned by doing. Second, we look at the students not as a container, but as a fire that we want to light up. What is that passion? What is that understanding that we want our students to gain as they engage in this brave new world? Last but not least, it is not the answer that enlightens, but the question. How can we educate the students to construct a dialogue across disciplines? This is a quick glimpse of the growing global learning network that the AC program has provided us, not only as an education environment, but also as a fascinating research test bed. You see the growing list of our academic partners, more than 20 universities, that bring together their students, their professors, as well as industry partners. Many of you have heard me talk about the program, so I just give you a footnote. The core action in this program is the AECT. We typically have every year anything from 4 to 12 such globally distributed student teams that have a plan, with a budget, with a program, with a site, and a timeline. And they all have access to an amazing pool of knowledge represented by faculty and industry experts and practitioners who provide real data and feedback. I would also like to recognize at this point our industry partners worldwide and emphasize the key challenges that these students are exposed to. Number one, really bringing them together, because our universities are structured around silos, around disciplines, but the real world is really cross-disciplinary. Second, really immerse these students in this technology-augmented environment over 4 months working on their project, learning how to manage their tasks and task interdependence across time and space. Last but not least, the hardest challenge is to really work in a multicultural team where people come with different traditions, different expectations, different norms and practices. 3 major processes and technologies are currently disrupting not only the industry but also the education environment. First of all, we heard BIM, but not only BIM, it's about multidisciplinary performance evaluation using that shared model, simulating energy, structural behavior through pushover analysis in earthquake zones or hurricane zones, model-based estimating and scheduling, cash flow, you name it. Second, IPD, integrated project delivery, really understanding that it's not only about the schedule, but it's the production plan. How you really understand task interdependencies, their time, expanding what we have done in the BL lab as a research effort, expanding contingency theory developed in the 60s by Thompson, and really pushing agility. Thirdly, VDC, virtual design and construction, where not only do we engage the students in focusing on the product and the process, but also the organization simulation to really predict where bottlenecks will happen and address them before communication failures occur. And what you see here is a simulation of such an organization. So really modeling, simulating, and performing multidisciplinary assessment. More than that, all the students have very clear objectives and metrics to understand how they progress, to reduce rework, coordination, and response latency, and increase knowledge capture and transfer, safety, agility, and innovation. On the innovation side, we have worked with our industry partners to further challenge the students to think outside the box. So 6 years ago, Reната Construction, one of the large general contractors on the West Coast, worked with us to establish the Reната Sustainability Challenge. So every year there is a theme. What you see here are the yearly projects and the winners. So anything from zero waste to reuse to native to embedded in the environment. Actually in 2009, another mentor sponsored corporate partner, DPR, also well known as a forward-thinking company implementing BIM and IBD and VDC, launched a process-centric challenge, integrated project development and delivery, that has complemented the Reната challenge, which is product-centric. So we have product quality, and the students just are amazing in pushing their envelope. Here are the latest 7 project team results presented in May, and the competition themes this year are Reната biomimicry and DPR IPD challenge was product organization and process. I invite you to visit our website project gallery and see all the 19 years of project development. But let's look at the challenges for learners and instructors. The learners are immersed in an increasing number of social worlds that demand attention. We are in an attention economy. And we all want their rice and bread. So one of the studies we did was really looking at these AEC students and how many social roles they are pulled into, from their local cohorts to their global teams, to their local AEC student body, and to the professional communities. Well, that pushes into continuous partial attention and multitasking. For the instructor, again, it's not PPL versus the traditional education, but it's really the balancing act between teaching and learning. How do you really manage that? Again, for the instructor, key transformations in their role, from stage on stage to coach on side, from just paper to digital and virtual interactions, from communication in a face-to-face office hour setting to a multimedia, multimodal communication setting. And last but not least, the most challenging for all of us is time and time management, because we are moving from control time management. I know where my office hours are in my classes, but now the expectation of the millennials is a 24/7 instant response. And if that is not leveraged, what we are missing is what we call a teachable moment, because that question is going to be forgotten. More than that, we are moving from a broadcast setting to a concurrent conversation and collective action in our classes, and we need to learn to leverage that. More than that, the instructor is no longer a source of knowledge, but a resource as part of many more resources. We also managed to reverse the instructor-learner ratio from 1 to many to what I call a learner inquiry-driven ad hoc team building, where the learner sets the question, the challenge, and brings together a group of mentors, instructors, and peers to explore alternatives to answer that question. And that is an amazing learning opportunity. Next, many of you are already administrators and decision makers. So what do you manage as you look at technology and learning and workspaces? Are you managing learning management systems and offices, or are you providing an ecosystem? So in the PBL lab, over the 2 decades, we have developed a growing collaboration ecosystem that spans over 5 dimensions: networks, devices, knowledge management and collaboration technologies, places, and people. In the PBL lab, the R&D activity is focused on developing new, what we call very extra large collaboration spaces. I'll tell you more about MCR, mixed media, mixed reality, and collaboration technologies that support informal and formal knowledge creation, capture, and reuse. People are the biggest asset for us, and we bring together students, faculty, and industry practitioners, and they all have a clear role and interaction opportunities. This ecosystem supports the knowledge lifecycle, from knowledge creation, capture, indexing, storing, as well as retrieval, understanding, and assessing. Here is an example that bridges the analog and digital worlds. It's a technology that we developed with one of my PhD research students called People, that was patented. And it really links three key analog communication channels: gesture, speech, annotation, and sketching. And in real time, synchronizes cross-indexes, publishes, and streams that content interactively. But what is more important as a takeaway is that the result of recall is a multimedia artifact that can be remixed and repurposed. This is a follow-up research that we developed together with Tekla and one of our industry partners that really pushes the idea of big further into what we call BKM, or building knowledge models, where the knowledge created through dialogue, kind of building on Ranaka's and Donald Schultz's theories, is actually captured, and then creating a framework that allows people to attach these knowledge items to objects or sub-assemblies in your model. So all of a sudden we are challenged to not only think about managing data and information, but managing knowledge across the life cycle of any facility or infrastructure project. If your wish comes true and you have all that very unstructured multimedia data captured and you have terabytes of it, video, audio, speech, sketches, how are you going to mine that unstructured data? Text is the easy part. Next question is, how do we push beyond just a research that gives you just a text word to help people really understand and assess what they can use? So with a group of students, we developed the DIVA system, that stands for Digital Video Audio Sketch, having three key modules: the eye gesture piece. From the video, we have been using MPEG-7 and video object segmentation, building algorithms to create libraries of professional gestures that can then be applied to the video stream of a recall session to post-process and bookmarks, and go and do a macro search. Same with iDialog that has led to some very interesting text disambiguation algorithms. And all this is cross-indexed through the recall algorithms. So you start to get a three-pronged glimpse for your query. Piece of video, a piece of text that is connected to the sketch and to the data from your enterprise data store. We also lately studied what we call multi-channel presence. We all know the best thing is face-to-face interaction, and we have HD video conferencing and simple Skype video conferencing. But lately, we brought in mobile robot video conferencing to allow the mobile people to have a physical presence and decide where to look. So here are some snapshots from real team meetings, where this is a meeting with the client, and you see the two robots represent the people, one in Germany at Bauhaus and one in Chicago, interacting with the Stanford group. This was very interesting. After the meeting, the construction manager from Stanford decided to have a subgroup meeting with the partner from Germany, Bauhaus, and Chico. And that is what we know from the physical world. We have a meeting, and then after the meeting, 2-3 people still need to work together on a problem. This is a very interesting physical-digital robotic mixed interaction environment where the Madison University of Madison, Wisconsin, Tom is the robot, and Nicholas from Aalborg University in Denmark is digitally present, and Stanford working together. Not only that, but we bring in the virtual world where the participants can have a multi-embodied presence, physical, robotic, and virtual, and bringing it back to the physical world. We have now started a project using gesture sensors, Microsoft Kinect, to really project our body gestures back into the virtual world. This is a glimpse of our MCR, mixed media, mixed reality architecture that has been the result of fusing the physical world. We have an iRoom that has 12 touch smart boards as an immersive interactive environment linked to a virtual team neighborhood. So every team has and owns their virtual world, as well as linked with the mobile knowledge worker or learner, so smartphones. The arrows actually show the flow of interaction and information between the worlds. So it's not one world against the other world, but it's really looking at integration and expansion from one world to the other. So I can be in the iRoom sketching on the smartboard, and that is then transferred in real time in the virtual world on the boards. Or I can sketch in the virtual world, and it is transported into the physical world, and data is fed from the field to these decision spaces. So very important presence and participation. These are images from the yearly January event when all the global students come to Stanford, and I run a 3-day team building workshop. And they get their project and they have a New Year charrette and they start to plan their coordination. But what I want to project here is the energy and interaction that happens in this space. More importantly, this space has a key feature, and that is it is reconfigurable on the fly and repurposable in support of the different activities that happen. So what you see here is the final event in May when all the students come back to Stanford to present their projects. And this is also a chance to push their thinking one notch further, not just present their results, but go back and reflect on the evolution of their project, identify new connections and new links between the disciplines, decisions that they made. And what this space allows them is to finally construct the narrative of the evolution of their project and unfold that in front of us so that we can see the steps of the decisions. Here you see the architectural decisions that were taken, as well as allow the audience to see architecture in the context of construction, in the context of cash flow, in the context of structure. So context becomes very important. But between January and May, they are at their universities interacting in a technology-augmented environment, sitting around the table in the virtual world. Here you see yet another transformation where we identify the transition from what I call stacks of content, the typical video conference with application sharing, where you always look at just one page, just one image. Fine when you look at one document, but what about everyone sharing their documents and starting to shuffle the deck to what happens in the virtual world, what I call spreads of content and context. What does this mean? It means that the team owns their space and they construct their collaboration space and co-create as the dialogue evolves during their meeting. So what you see here is a snapshot during their weekly project review meeting. But it's not a preset space, and that really allows that co-creation and construction of both the collaboration space and the content as they make decisions, as they explore solutions. And the transformation is just amazing because instead of multitasking, they actually start to be very focused. They even decide to have specific dedicated rooms in their collaboration space. This is an example of a rich content in context room where the construction manager really set up all the target value design information that is linked with the real spreadsheet. So it's updated, and more importantly, it is persistent. So 24/7, team members, the client can drop in and understand what is going on, what decisions were taken. More than that, they not only own the space and negotiate the virtual space, but they mix virtuality with digitality, so the video and the avatar. From another interesting study, jointly with my colleague from Puerto Rico University, we compared what is happening, and what we found is that in a web conferencing environment, multitasking is the typical behavior. In the virtual world, multitasking is minimal or non-existent, allowing for total engagement. We collected quantitative eye tracker data as well as qualitative field data. And what we found is that there is a significant difference, 24% more engagement and more attention in the virtual world. What does this mean from a cognitive perspective is more time on task and more frequent time on task. One colleague at Stanford in the communication department is studying multitasking in the different generations, thinking that millennials have some secret to really manage multitasking, how to plan tasks. And what turns out is actually it is not healthy, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, the more multitasking you do, the more you educate your brain to become an ADD person. ADD stands for attention disorder disease. So you have less and less capacity to spend longer spans of time on specific activities. Another big transformation is looking at process. With another group of students, we started to develop agile integrated project delivery systems, expanding Thompson's contingency theory to allow us to really restate the production plan, as well as integrating Scrum agile skills and practices to lead to agile integrated project processes. So what do these two pictures mean to us? This is the typical meeting. You show me yours, I show you mine. I know what I call infomercial, right? Presentation mode that is really meeting minutes and to-do list driven. Very linear, very static, very often people ask themselves, why am I in this meeting? My time is wasted. To an agile process where the time and the activity is really driven by results, by intermediary decisions, by intermediary commitments. Another transformation that mixed media mixed reality allows us is to move from interactive viewing, and we love all the 3D renderings and kind of planned walkthroughs, to what we call experiencing. Experiencing together the future building as we immerse into the virtual model. It's not one or the other, each has a role. In the virtual world, the team can actually bring in their 3D big model in their very rich content and context and experience Alice in Wonderland behind the looking glass. So this is the model, and the team and the client can walk into the space and walk wherever they want. The model and the avatars are to scale. So the door is a door, and my height is my height. So we can really experience the space as a group rather than just an interactive viewing activity. More than that, we can bring in and experience the space, but also receive feedback. This was an interesting story from one of the projects. The client walked through the atrium. The architect had this vision of many colors, but the client said, I don't like this cage experience. I would like a more classical look and feel. And so really responding to the client's feedback and allowing the client to build early on an ownership of the future building. More than that, pushing beyond clash detection. So computers are very good at crunching numbers and identifying geometric clashes. But computers cannot guess our feelings, our design intents, the design logic. So here you have two examples, checking stair widths as well as walking through corridors. So the corridors would pass the code requirements and get the permit. But in this particular case, as they were walking through the corridor as avatars, the client said, I actually don't like the feel because I would like 3 people to be able to walk side by side. But the avatars were not able to do that. So that was a requirement. Back to the team to go to the drawing board and expand and revise their design. More than that, back to the Microsoft Kinect gesture sensor, we are now working on algorithms to actually attach functionality, so not just allow projection of our physical body into the virtual world, but actually allow actuators. So how about if I push my hands, indicating that I want the corridor to be wider, and then the model in the virtual world having all the structural constraints, behaviors, and so forth move the walls. So remember the second question, how can we expand our capabilities? So we are starting to become omnipotent, right? I can move walls. Checking integration between systems here, mechanical and structure, more than flashes, but really understanding spaces and design intents to really optimize further, so bringing in people's feedback. Last but not least, a great environment for knowledge transfer. This was actually a session in the virtual world of all the construction managers in the program. They decided to share their practices and brought in their BIM and VDC and IPD approaches from their team to exchange their ideas. The last transformation that I want to share with you is from group to team. And typically, people talk about collaborative teams, but actually they cooperate most of the time. To move from group to team, we need to give back to global virtual teams a social space, a space where they can socialize. Who are you? Not just a voice when you dial into a teleconference. And what you see here is one of the many examples where not only does the team own their collaboration team space with all their project work, but they organize a surprise birthday party and make it in their workspace, just like people do in the physical space. For the architect in Puerto Rico, and the team was geographically distributed. But really bringing back the informal social construction structures that strengthen work relationships, that strengthen trust, and we all know that those impact productivity and quality and high performance teamwork. So in closing, as I promised, I will share with you 10 key characteristics that I identified over the years. The first is co-creation. That is very important. The second is how do you allow people to better express their ideas and solutions? How do you allow new informal interactions? How do you really look at attention and participation and engagement? What are those metrics? How do you support persistence of content in context and models of content in context? Leveraging that. How do you support transparency? What am I working on? How do you know what I'm working on? How do you support flexibility, repurposing, and remixing of the spaces and the content to really push beyond the regular run-of-the-mill? How do you support emergent new work practices and processes as well as social dynamics behaviors? So we also work with people from organization modeling and workplace psychology and School of Education to bring in theories from their disciplines. Last but not least, how do you create and manage choice? And everyone today actually talks about managing change. Managing change is a point in time. It's the before and the after. But I hope that one takeaway is to really understand that it is so important to create this ecosystem to provide choices as well as guidelines for the people to understand what choices they make, for what activities, in what team context. Choice more important than change because it is a transformation journey. And that is a segue into the summary of the transformative impacts that I would like to share with you on the product, process, and interaction that I just showed. From BIM to building knowledge models, from steps to spreads, from viewing to experiencing under product, under process, from group to team, from sequential to agile processes, from meeting minutes driven to results driven, and under interaction from multitasking to total engagement, from presentation mode to unfolding stories, reflections, and connections. For the instructor, from being the only knowledge source to a resource as part of many resources that the learners have to take, and from broadcast, just presentation and lecture, to crowdsourcing. So with your permission, I will switch now, and I'm going to close with a 2-minute short video, if I get to actually share the story. Did you hear me? Okay. With your permission, let's see if I can get this to work.
Stanford with partners worldwide. Our challenge was to design a 30,000 square foot university building in the University of Puerto Rico while being remotely located around the globe. And our team wants to intimidating challenge for our design. I think the first key to our success as Iowa team was that we were excellent at communication. If language and culture are barriers, then you need to find something that transcends these barriers. And for us, it was humor. In one of our very first brainstorming sessions, Frank, our lifecycle financial manager from Germany, said that he wanted a bar in the building. And I think the first thing I asked was, how many square feet that would be? We ended up putting a cafe in the final design. And a lot of thought went into how that would activate the social space, improve circulation, and even turn a small profit. In other words, we took ownership over and we made it fun. For the final presentation, Frank even brought us to take reviews from Germany. And Rebecca, our architect, brought her families native coffee from Puerto Rico. We weren't afraid of using technology to improve our communication. We used an online 3D immersive collaboration environment for our weekly meetings, which dramatically increased our productivity because we could engage with each other as if we were meeting in person. Later, we imported our models into the same virtual space, and instead of just looking at drawings, we could experience our building from the inside out. We even brought the owners into the space on a regular basis and allowed them to engage in the design process. In this online virtual environment, we learned to develop work practices and communication protocols that were unique and worked for us. When we ran our weekly meetings, we didn't waste time doing show and tell. We immediately identified problems and split into subgroups to solve them. At the end of the hour, we drove to actions, scheduled additional subgroup meetings throughout the week. We kept all of our transparent through file sharing, and when there were questions, we never waited for the next meeting. We emailed each other immediately, no matter what time we were taking. When it came to design, we spent an entire 2 months developing our design with professional mentors and searching for a big idea to put in the data challenge. We had designed a functional space for education with an interesting architectural form we called the puzzle, but it didn't feel connected to Puerto Rico. It didn't address its context. Then we found out about the student bias at the university, and how Rebecca just nearly missed a major student who stand out of the architecture school. After hearing her concerns, I suggested that we should approach our design from a new angle to address the need for greater transparency between students, faculty, and administration. We call it new design the social puzzle. When we redesigned the program layout for circulation spaces, we fostered very specific types of interactions between user groups that weren't possible before. We responded to the data challenge with our own unique definition and took ownership of our design. I hope you enjoyed your experience in the AEC Global Teamwork Challenge. I wish you all.
Thank you for the most fascinating presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Professor Furchther has unfolded for us a very rich scenario that I think many of you will find most interesting. So I would like to invite you a little time, because we started late, it's a little ahead of time, but still I would like to invite you to ask questions and to make comments. Please, Professor Lang.
Yes, thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. You asked one question that I think, well, at least I did not really understand the answer. What about 24/7? This is, I think, a huge problem for all of us and for all generations, so very specific issue.
I'm not surprised to hear your question. This is the most disturbing challenge for my audiences. And the good news is to really understand the last two transformation takeaways. Number one, you are no longer the only source of knowledge. You are a resource of knowledge in a pool of knowledge. And second, to move from broadcast to crowdsourcing. So it's not that we now will be sleepless, even even though if you look at my schedule, you don't want to look at it. Because I work with all the things. But the important model that we have created in this global teamwork environment is what I call the mentor knowledge pool and value knowledge pool that is distributed over the world. And so you are allowed to sleep, I'm allowed to sleep, because there will always be at least one that will be awake and ready to answer. Second, if you recall, I mentioned another transformation, and that is reversing the instructor-student ratio. And I want to tell you, our students, the millennials, are very good at leveraging these knowledge pools. And when they have a question, and this is what I have seen in the last few years, they don't go sequentially. First they ask you, then you, then Carl, then you. No. They send out the question to all. And what that triggered was actually a discussion in response to the student question. So we don't repeat some parts of our answers, but we expand and build on each other. The learning is absolutely exponential. And to go back to the image board digital, it is actually a picture of the 2002 cover story Wired magazine. In 2002, these millennials were teenagers. Now they are picking out academic spaces, and in 4 or 5 years, they will be out in the workforce. They are absolutely fluent in hyperconnectivity. For them, this is like the first language. For all of us in the room, it is like learning a second language, speaking a second language. It's an acquired taste. So do not worry, but plan. So it's about strategizing. It's not about being a Luddite and say, no, this will not happen. It will happen whether we want or not. So how do we leverage it, and how do we embed it and integrate it into the learning journey that we offer our students during their stay at our universities?
I think we'll take one more question from Mr. Hartman.
Yes, I can.
So, indeed, I think collaborators work is very active and very useful and valuable, provided that no confusions, misinterpretations, or other difficulties can arise. So, how is it ensured in your concept to avoid such confusions, such difficulties? Is there a watchdog concept or a supervisor concept necessary? Please be kind enough to comment on that.
Thank you very much, Professor Hartman. This is not only a question that academics worry about, it's also a big question in corporations. Because the workplace is changing, we've been doing a very interesting study over the last couple of years of the changing nature of workplace, because people are no longer at their desks due to mobility, due to globalization, and so forth. So 2 of our latest research projects actually have developed framework, metrics, and software toolkit that allows learners and knowledge workers to make explicit choices in the physical, virtual, and interaction world to understand what level of engagement. So we've created a scale 4 degrees of engagement that becomes transparent to the participants. So back to my last point related to 10 key spaces, for collaboration spaces, is create and manage choice. So giving the people mechanisms to make explicit and transparent choices as individuals and as teams, and understand the impact of those choices, whether they are technological, physical, or work practice and process, to understand what level of performance they can achieve, and build on what is very well known in the cognitive science world as the feedback mechanism. So rather than controlling people, giving control to people to self-regulate and set goals that are realizable. So realistic goals rather than wishful goals. So what is the common practical denominator in the context of our distribution, resources, and infrastructure? I will be glad to share the metrics and the environment with you. We've started now to test it with some colleagues in corporate settings in Japan and Finland, and also started to test this year with our students, and that helped us. So it's definitely not recommended to go into a big brother environment, but leverage the principle of feedback loop and self-regulation.